This is the Brew World Order Podcast.
Welcome to the Brew World Order Podcast. My name is Mike Curtin. If you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for, huh? This is episode number 25, and in this episode, I sit down with Pete Artherholt of Jughandle Brewing Company in Tinton Falls, New Jersey. Pete talks to me about how his past job at construction helped him to build his brewery, but the big difference between his old job and new one is that he doesn't have to deal with the elements of outside while brewing, which is always a plus. I truly feel Pete's pain, as my past job was in construction as well. So in this interview, I tried my hardest not to screw it up. But I think we really hammered it home. Well, you know the drill. Sit back, crack open a beer, and enjoy the podcast. Hey guys, I'm Mike Curtin, and today I'm with Pete Artherholt of Jughandle Brewing Company in Tinton Falls, New Jersey. Friends Pete Artherholt and Chris Hannigan had been homebrewing together for 15 years with the idea of one day opening their own brewery. In April of 2015, they teamed up with friend Mike Scadura to make that dream into a reality. Pete being the scientist, Chris being the artist, and Mike being the strategist, they started to put in the work. After all the smoke of lease agreements, permits, and construction all settled, they officially opened their doors to the public back in June of 2018. And Pete is here with me today. Pete, thank you for being with us, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. It's great.
Awesome. So, the big thing that's been happening right now with the whole COVID since March, shutting down everything. What did things look like for you before all that, and what did things look like for you now?
It's kind of crazy because at least in New Jersey, it seems like the COVID thing hit the breweries in a weird kind of way. Like before that, we had a tasting room and all that, and we could do full pours and people would come in and sit down, and we were canning a little bit, but at the same time we were getting ready to move into a bigger space.
Okay.
So we're kind of winding down our old space and moving a lot of equipment over, and so this whole COVID thing hit, and it kind of made it a little easier because now we didn't have a tasting room anymore.
Right.
And so we were able to kind of use it as a staging area to move stuff and all that. But at the same time, we had already purchased our canning line, so we just started canning a lot more. So,
Right.
Just like any brewery with a canning line in New Jersey right now, you're just basically a liquor store. We're just selling cans. It helped us a little bit. It's still a big pain in the butt. Because we lost all the wholesale business from the bars.
Of course.
They closed down. On the whole, it's just different. It's just a different atmosphere right now.
Right. It didn't seem, so luckily it didn't seem to be that horrible for you. Did you have to let any of your workers go? Or
anything? Yeah. We let, when it first happened, I let everybody go.
Okay.
Because I didn't know what was going to happen. And then as it kind of came out that we were going to be allowed to stay open to sell cans, and then we could deliver beer to customers directly. I started to pull people back.
Right.
And we're back pretty much to where we were staffing wise, except for really the bartenders, because we just don't need as many anymore.
Right.
But all the full time people are back pretty much.
All right. How did you go about finding the capital to start your brewery?
So we really shoestring this place.
Okay.
The initial space. We didn't put, a lot of it was just from family and friends. I was a carpenter. I had my business doing carpentry before that, so I did a lot of the construction work, and we just kind of pieced the system together. So there wasn't, as far as breweries go, there wasn't like a ton of upfront capital. Compared to what a lot of breweries or other businesses will have to spend to get open, So
right.
I think we just did it really kind of cheap.
Okay. So you kind of just asked around and,
Yeah, there was equipment expenses and all that, but we didn't buy a really expensive system or anything. We just kind of like pieced everything together.
Okay. And the morale of your friends and family when you decided to do this, what was that?
Oh yeah, they loved it. It's gone pretty well, and everybody. I talked with everybody, and mostly my family. And they all thought it was a great idea.
Right.
So we just kind of did it.
So what was one of the hardest adjustments you feel like you had to make during that time period from when you opened till now?
When I was doing construction, I had my own business, and I was constantly outside cutting wood, and in the winter and the summer and all that, and it's hot and cold. I mean, you as a firefighter,
Right.
That's like.
Well, I actually did construction for about 12 years before firefighting, so I completely
exactly
understand.
what that's like.
Yes, very frustrating.
Snowing or raining, or like you're in the sun and sweating. It's horrible.
Yes.
And I love the work, but the hardest time for me was in the beginning when we were trying to get the brewery rolling and make beer, and it couldn't support anybody. So we're all, I still had my full-time job, so it was kind of like a lot of weekends, a lot of nights.
Right.
And then once I finally made the transition to come full-time, I think this job, it's the same level of physical work. I'm just inside. So to me, it's like it's a bonus. You don't get wet in the rain. It's not crazy hot. Other than that, it's been a pretty smooth transition. It was just that weird year, in the beginning when I was kind of doing both. That was just hard.
Yeah. In that time period, I know taking a break from everything is huge.
Right.
How important was the break then, and how important is the break, let's say, now?
I'm lucky in that my wife has a really good job, and we tend to go on I love to travel, and so does she, so we tend to go on a lot of little short vacations.
Right.
Even if they're just a weekend, we'll just drive somewhere and get away with kids.
Yeah, it's perfect.
So that's usually all I need. I don't need a lot. I'm used to working, 60-hour weeks. It doesn't really bother me.
Right. Gotcha.
So, as a matter of fact, if I don't work a lot, I start getting really tired. So
I understand that.
Yeah, and you start to get achy.
Yeah, you just you got to keep going. You got to keep going. It's like it keeps you in motion.
Yeah, if you sit for too long, things start to hurt.
Yeah, right. So what was something you never thought you'd had to deal with in this industry?
You know what? I knew I was going to have to do it, but I definitely didn't have a feeling of what it really was. Is just the amount of regulation and state and federal stuff that goes along with doing this.
Right. Okay.
It's a lot of paperwork, and it never stops. Just dealing with the towns for the variances required for the spaces and all the things that go along with that. You're going to have to do it, but unless you've done it before, you don't know exactly what it is.
Right, of course.
And it's definitely a lot more work than I thought it was going to be.
So what was, as for all the paperwork went, what was one of the hardest things to make stick as far as regulations and permits and things go?
It's not, I don't think that any one piece is really hard. There's just a lot of it.
Right. Yeah.
And
a lot of regulations.
Yeah. And really, to me, the most nerve-wracking part is not so much the once you're up and running stuff. It's the variances and dealing with the town to get the space permitted and running.
Okay.
It takes a long time, and it's just very ambiguous, and you need lawyers and you need planners, and you just need a lot of people. But luckily, once you do that, it's done. You don't have to visit that thing again. But it definitely wasn't something I knew a lot about, so I didn't know what to expect.
What would you say was the biggest lesson you've learned so far? Just what you've learned in general. Was there maybe something that might have happened that you're like, man, I know never to do this again, or maybe just something that you've experienced?
I've made a lot of stupid brewing mistakes that I know never make again. But yeah, I don't know that there's one big lesson. It's just a lot. The whole thing is just a huge learning experience. It's a different kind of, the business is a different kind of animal than like a construction company. There's just so many more moving pieces.
Right. Yeah.
There's the whole wholesale side of it, and then the retail side of it, and they're just. When I was doing construction, I just had to make one person happy at a time.
Right.
And now I've got to make lots of people happy.
Yes.
So the customer relation side is definitely bigger, and the social media plays a huge role in a lot of stuff that we do, and I never had to deal with that before.
Right.
So I've had to learn a lot about that.
Is that the biggest? Would you say that's the biggest marketing strategy that you have?
Yeah, we do a lot on. We do a lot of email work too, but
Okay.
Instagram. It used to be Facebook, but it seems like we're starting to migrate away from that. So as far as marketing, that's pretty much it.
Okay. I know you said you did a lot of home brewing, right? You did it for about 15 years prior to.
Yeah.
What was that like aha moment for you when you were like, we need to open a brewery, man? Like this has to happen.
So it's really funny. I was with my wife when it happened. So I homebrewed, and I had a degree in chemistry, and I pretty much was doing it out of college. So,
Awesome.
And like kind of on and off, and then I started to really do it, and so I was making beer, and that's when breweries were starting to open in the state.
Right.
So my dad, and this had to be maybe 2015. My dad was like, "Hey, so this little brewery just opened up in Belford. It's Belford Brewing Company." He's like, "We should go sometime." I was like, "Oh, why not?" So I went up there, and I don't know if you've ever been there.
No, I have not.
But it's pretty small. It's like, they might be a 1-barrel system, maybe.
Okay.
And it's in a pretty small little space. And I walked in there, and I looked at it. I was like, I could totally do this.
Right.
And I'm not saying anything bad about them. I'm just looking at the space and what they had. I was like, I could do this.
Right.
And that was really it. That was the moment where I was like, I think this is something I want to try.
Yeah, you just saw that it was doable. It wasn't like
it was doable on that kind of scale, and like it seemed like they were having fun. And I was talking to the guy. I was like, maybe I'll give up construction for a little while.
Right. It wasn't like walking into Coors Brewery and being like, oh, this is doable.
No, absolutely not. I walked into that brewery. It is not doable.
Yeah, I hear it's insane. I have yet to do it, but my next trip back to Colorado, I'm definitely going to do that.
It's a very cool tour. And the beers that you get at the end, I don't know why, but are way better than Coors you'll get anywhere else.
Oh, yeah. Straight from the source. There you go.
Yeah, no, it's awesome.
So, how do you yourself define success? And then was there a moment for you that kind of sticks out where you realized things were going in the right direction and things were moving in the right direction for you and your company?
I don't know that I would say we're really successful yet. I mean, I think we're moving in a good direction. I kind of measure it by like, can I pay my guys, and like, are they happy doing what they're doing, and am I having fun doing it? To me, it's not so much about the money. It's more about like, I'm spending a lot of time here. I better be having a good time doing it.
Right, for sure.
You know, because I can always go back and do something else that I probably wouldn't like, but might pay me more money. That's the thing, and the flexibility helps. I have a lot more flexibility now than I used to. Where like if I need to run home, I only live 10 minutes away, so
it's perfect.
I can run home, and if the kids need something, I can take care of that, and they can come here and have fun. So, that to me, that's the successful part. Like, are we having a good time? Are people that work for me, are they having fun? Is it working?
Yeah.
So that to me, that's the successful part. There's always room to get better.
Of course.
But I think we're heading in a good direction. Beer sales are going up, and that's it.
That's great to hear. I'm sure you've met a lot of brewery owners and brewers.
Oh yeah.
Is there any certain person or specific company that inspired you?
Most of them are all so cool. I've talked to so many, like even the New Jersey brewery owners. They're all great, and it's such an awesome community. Not even the owners, but even just like the brewers. Like, I'm pretty close with a lot of the guys from Kane,
mm-hmm.
and we help each other out all the time, and some of the guys from Carton, and the Last Wave guys.
Okay.
We just whenever it's so awesome. Like, I can just shoot these guys a text, and they'll text me like, "Hey, do you have any of this? I'm a little short right now." And I think it makes it so different than most industries. I can't see like a supermarket texting the supermarket down the street going, "Oh, we just ran out of rice. Do you guys have any?"
Yeah, right.
Where like I could text, like the guys from Kane tomorrow and go, "Hey, we're a little short on Crystal 20. Do you guys have a bag that I can borrow? And it's coming in tomorrow." And they'll do the same thing with me.
Yeah,
so
I'm sure
that's super great. I love that relationship.
Right, I'm sure that's cool because then you can be like, "You better let me try some of this."
Oh yeah, and you always bring beer with you when you're going to pick stuff up.
Of course, right. Here, try some of this. We just brewed this up. What do you think?
Yeah, no, 100%. And that that it's such a great part of this industry. And all the owners, like Michael Cain's great, Augie Carton's great. They're all great guys,
Right.
Yeah, I like all of them.
Yeah, it seems that brewers just seem to have that, laid back, very welcoming personality,
It's funny because at least I'm pretty involved in what goes on here day to day. I don't know. I assume most of the owners are pretty involved.
Right.
things are always going wrong. You can't take things to heart. Like,
Of course
you just
not.
kind of have to like just let things kind of go and work on problems as they happen. You're just always putting out fires, you know.
Gotcha.
So, something's gonna go wrong.
So, I ask a lot of people this: what was your, like? I know the craft beer revolution kind of just like took off at one point,
Right.
but there were some craft beers around, but they weren't really called craft beers just yet.
Right.
What was your gateway beer into the craft world?
Sierra Nevada Pale Ale, man. Like everybody else.
Everybody's, how many people have told me that? It's so funny. It's great.
A fresh keg of Sierra Nevada is phenomenal.
Yes, they're really good.
It's such a good beer.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, I really like that beer a lot.
So, were there any books or anything when you were brewing? Were there certain books, or I don't think podcasts were probably as big.
Yeah, they weren't out yet.
Right, they weren't as relevant as they are now. Were there any books or anything that you used to help you?
I mean, I read a lot of them, like the wheat book and the barley books and the water books. All those books I read.
Right.
But a lot of it wasn't so much podcast. It was just, if you have a question, you start digging around online, see what other people are doing. Like the homebrew forums are pretty good.
Right.
And there's a lot of good information on there if you know who to listen to and who not to. There's a lot of really skilled homebrewers out there.
Oh, for sure.
That know what they're doing.
I've run into a lot of them.
And a lot of times they'll know more. I'll walk them and they'll know more about specific things than I will because they've just done so much work on it.
Yeah.
I've
dealt with so many mistakes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and just really, if they start diving into a really specific style that I haven't dealt with a lot, and they may be doing really, really small batches where they can churn this thing over like 4 or 5 times to really dial it in.
Yeah, right. Hone it in.
Maybe I a lot of times I don't have that luxury where it'll take me longer, to do that many turns. So
if somebody came to you and they said, "Hey, I would love to open my own place," what would be some advice you would give them?
It's not a part-time gig. You have to be committed to this thing. Even if you're not there part-time, it's like any other business. It'll eat, and maybe more so, it'll eat whatever time you have.
Right.
And it needs a lot. It's a complicated business. And as far as beer styles, it's always a moving target in what people want to drink right now.
Of course, yes.
That would be my biggest piece of advice. Do a lot of reading, do a lot of research, and expect to spend a lot of time.
Right. And be there. Be there a lot.
And be there. Yep.
Make sure you know what's going on. Don't expect
you gotta be there.
to walk away and...
No, you can't.
I've seen too many people who own businesses walk away and expect their team to take care of everything, and then it just crumbles.
Yeah. Because, odds are your employees don't love it the way you do.
Right.
So,
of course.
And if you found employees that do, you're super, super lucky.
Yeah. So, did you happen to have a funny story for us?
I was dry hopping a beer, and this is in the very, very beginning, And I really think the only way you learn a lot of this stuff is you have to experience it. No one's going to teach you, hey, you shouldn't do that. And it was a 15-barrel tank, and it was full, and dry hopping it, and I'm pouring the hops, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, well, what the, why is the hop stuff, coming out of the tank instead of going in? Next thing you know, it's erupting. Yeah. And you can't stop it,
No.
I ended up shooting... Go ahead.
You could try and close it, but no, that's not happening.
You can't. You end up putting your whole body in it. It doesn't help. It wants out. There's no stopping it. And, I ended up, it ruined our laptop. It shot to the front of the tasting room. I ended up, covering my assistant brewer in hops. What can you do? You just laugh at that point. Right. There's no stopping it.
Yeah, just a lot of hosing down and sanitizing after that.
Yes, a lot of hosing down.
A lot of hosing down. I'm
always
sure.
Bringing a change of clothes because you might need them.
Right.
Constantly getting covered in beer,
Yeah.
But it's fun.
Oh yeah, I love. I haven't done it on a large scale yet, but I have done plenty of home brewing, and I love it.
You should come down here, man.
I would be more than happy to.
I'll brew with you.
Awesome. So we have a little thing called a quick fire 5.
Okay.
5 quick questions. Just 1, 2-word answer, whatever.
Yep.
Ready?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. What are Jughandle's beers that you would recommend someone try?
Our Hefeweizen, I really like it.
Hefeweizen. Okay.
Yeah.
Favorite brewery other than your own?
Allagash.
Allagash. Favorite style of beer?
Probably lagers.
Lager. Barrel aged, imperial, or both?
I'll take barrel aged.
Barrel aged.
Yeah.
And you have 1 keg of beer to hold you over for a 2-week quarantine. What beer are you choosing?
You know, I'm gonna say like Coors Banquet beer.
Coors Banquet beer. Wow.
Yeah.
We had an FDNY softball game the other day. And the guy brings Banquet beer, and I'm like, dude, this is like one of the mainstream beers that I love. I was like, this is about one of my favorite beers, and I was like, it's nowhere to be found. It's insane.
Yeah.
It's insane. They used to have the tall boys of them, and they were like $1.25, $1.25 each, and I would get 4 of them, just like knock off 2, like it was nothing. I was like, those were some of my favorite beers.
I love that beer.
Yeah,
you can drink it forever.
It's really good. It's a really good beer. Pete, that's all I have for you, man.
Cool.
Yeah. I'm Mike Curtin for the Brew World Order podcast, here with Pete Artherholt from Jughandle Brewing. Thanks, Pete.
Yeah, no problem, man.
Hey guys, so that was my interview with Pete Artherholt of Jughandle Brewing in Trenton Falls, New Jersey. Thank you so much for listening. Whether you're passing through, live in the area, or just visiting a friend nearby, you should definitely check them out. Every other Sunday I'll be releasing a new episode, so subscribe and you'll never miss one. Also, be sure to check out our social media accounts for updates on the podcast. I'm Mike Curtin for the Brew World Order podcast. You stay safe out there.